Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and share. It really helps the channel and it helps me. Tonight, we're diving into the incredible journey with Aga Sina, who sailed his Island Packet 370 sailing vessel KaiBo, a vessel renowned for its strength and blue water capacity, from Florida all the way home to Australia. Along the way, he explored breathtaking countries and islands, faced open water challenges, and truly embraced the freedom of life at sea. Grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's set sail together as we hear all about Aga's unforgettable adventure aboard SV Kaibo. So let's bring out. Hey, Aga, how are you?
Hello, hi. Hello, everyone.
And we'll also have another surprise guest. It is Terry Ivans of Adventure Yacht Sales. Welcome,
Hi, how are you
everybody.
doing? Hey.
Good. So glad you guys. Now I didn't know about you, Aga, until Terry told me about you. So I really appreciated. She said Florida to Australia. I said I'm in. I want to hear about this story. So, so basically, you were talking before. I wouldn't let you tell too much until we're on the air. Terry, you sold this Island Packet 370 to Aga, correct?
I did. And Aga, I think we originally met up in Fort Pierce. And I think you might have looked at a 420 that was on the hard. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I remember that. And we went to lunch afterwards, and he told me what he wanted to do. He wanted to sail to Australia, and Aga has a lot of tech experience, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. You
tech experience,
like technology experience. So one of the things that he told me about in the beginning, this is a couple of years ago, that he was going to use something called Raspberry Pi, which has nothing to do with fruit, but it's a operating system. And he had a lot of really forward-thinking ideas about, what he was going to do with the boat on his journey. So, and he actually did a lot of those things. And I think you probably did along the way, right? For things that didn't.
Yes, so one of the things that drove me to it is the challenge of the technical challenge of being able to live off grid, to be independent, and to comfortably sail from Florida to Australia. So those technical challenges were one of my drivers, but actually my technology computer skills did not help me much at all. I think if you're going to do these things, you're, understanding AC and DC electricity, diesel, engine maintenance and repair. I'm horrible at arts and crafts, like, painting and gel coat and varnish and those things. I'm horrible at. So I think those are the three key components if you want to do this successfully. And those are the things I kind of had to learn along the way, with moderate success.
Okay, gel coat and being a MacGyver on a boat, right?
Yeah,
on a long trip.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about fixing things. That's all. 90% of the time, the people I met, doing big ocean crossing, ocean passages, we're all sitting in a marina 90% of the time fixing things,
ordering parts or trying to get somebody to trade
waiting for parts. Yeah, waiting for parts.
Getting it through customs.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the biggest challenge.
So Terry, bringing that up, the 420, what made you go with the 370? What made you go in that direction?
Well, I just made a list of boats that I wanted to look at, and I prioritized that list based on some criteria, and I just started from the top, making offers, and then this one hit, and all right, I'm in. Yeah,
it was the one that was the most reasonable for you, or that fit your budget.
I think 420. I think is a little big for. In the beginning, I thought I would solo sail at some point, at a time, and I wanted a boat that I could sail myself, and probably 420 would be a little bit big to manage on your own. Also, as you know, everything about a boat is all the cost is based per foot. You want to do
Right.
your bottom, it's per foot. You want to dock it in marina, it's by foot. You know, you want to put it on the stand by foot. You want to cross the Panama Canal, it's by foot. So all the
Oh,
cost is relative
Buying
to
sales, everything, new sales.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good, I think it's a good size for one person or two or a couple. And if you're just gonna go day sailing and coastal cruising, yeah, you could put 4 people on a 370. I had 4 people. I started out from Florida with 4 people, uh, including me, and it went okay. You know, we crossed from Florida to Isla Mujeres
Oh
with
wow.
one with with the water with the water just we had, right. We didn't have to make water or get water along the way.
Where
So
did you
you
start
know,
out in Florida?
Punta Gorda,
Okay.
Burnt
So you
Storm
started
Marina in
from the
Punta
West
Gorda.
Coast. Oh yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we started out, and I took 3 crew members with me. 3 girls from Norway. One of them, Helga, is going to do the Globe race. She signed up for the
wow.
2026 Golden
Oh.
Globe. So I told her I taught her everything not to do.
Did you see I
So
had Kirsten New Shaper on? She was the winner of
I
the
haven't watched it
2022.
yet. Yeah, I've seen
Okay.
interviews with her. And interesting, and what stuck to me when I watched one of her interviews is that she said that 80% of the race happens before you get to the start line. And
Yeah.
I think
For
that,
preparation.
yeah, and that was one of the what attributed to my success to get to Australia. I think the funny thing is when I was in Burnt Storm Marina, you know, you had all the other sailors there with their and island pack and all different kinds of sailboat, and everyone was
Mm.
telling me the 2 years I spent there refitting the boat. Everyone's telling me you got to take it out every day, test everything, all this stuff. But every time they went out, something broke. So I said, I'm not moving this boat. I'm not moving this
You don't want
boat.
to know, do you?
I don't,
I don't
well,
want
I
to
just,
know.
yeah, well, I just fixed as much as, you know, I just kept fixing and improving and improving and improving.
Mm.
And I only took it out once before I left for Australia, and that's to provision the autopilot.
Wow.
And
Okay.
yeah,
Mhm.
and none of the electrical, mechanical system broke from
Oh, good.
Australia, from Florida to Australia, which was incredible.
Was it new?
Because
Were the electronics new?
yeah, I put in a B&G. I put in B&G Zeus NAC 3, the rudder ram. I put all that in, all
Okay.
new. I put in lithium batteries, lithium
Okay.
starter, lithium house bank.
Who did
I
that
put
for
it.
you? Was it Yacht
I did
Rigger?
it. No,
Yeah.
no, I did it. I did
Wow.
it, but there was an ABYC electrician on in the marina. I had him look over my wiring diagrams. I had this
Okay.
guy who was the chief engineer for those ocean rigs, and he looked over all my things. I used a thermal imaging camera to look for any bad connections throughout the boat, and I haven't had any electrical problems from
Nice.
the 11,000 miles nautical miles I sailed the boat. So
11,000 miles. Wow.
Isn't that incredible?
yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I mean, I sail a lot of boats and I talk to a lot of people, myself included, who are, you know, I want to sail around the world. And, you know, you are one of those people that you have sailed, you know, literally around the world to the other side of the world. And I'm so proud of you because, you know, a lot of people, and I don't know if you have that desire, Tinsley, but, you know, I think about it. And then when it comes to, you know, pulling the trigger and making it happen, I think that's the hard part. And I guess my question for you is, what did you have any sailing experience?
yeah. I mean, you know, I sailed in San Francisco. I belonged
That's
to
right.
the yacht club,
He's
and
like,
I love
right. But you know, the hardest part
he
of
learned a lot, though.
yeah, I sure did. And yeah, so when I left Punta Gorda, and I finally one day I said, okay, I'm going to leave. I said, I don't care if I make it from dock B to dock A and my stuff breaks down. I'll fix it in dock A, you know? So, yeah, and that's the thing. You just have to leave. You know, if you think about all the things you're going to go wrong, if you want to make sure that everything, you'll never leave, you know? So, and that's what everyone does. Everyone fixes things along the way. You know, the interesting thing, when I was in Chiapas, Mexico, there were 5 boats sitting there waiting to do their ocean passage, whether they're going along the Central America or crossing the Pacific. Of the 5 boats that we were like all knew each other, 4, including me, 4 of them went out and had to come back because they had problems. You know, so there's so many things that have to go right to be able to do this thing, and you have to be you're very lucky. You have to be very lucky, which I think I was, or very prepared for. You know, your boat really needs to be prepared to do these things, because the amount you get out there in the big seas, the amount of stress and the flex and the things the ocean does to your boat is nothing like you know you've ever experienced coastal cruising. You know.
Well,
let me ask you a question. What inspired you to do this?
Well, so 2 things, right? So what pulled the trigger was that, you know, I always watch these zombie movies, and I always think, why didn't they get on a boat? And then when COVID hit, I'm like, this is the zombie apocalypse. I need to get a boat. And that's what
a lot of people did, didn't they, Terry?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what got me to pull the trigger. But also looking back, you know, the first book I ever opened and paged through was a book my grandfather had, the Kon-Tiki. It was a story of Thor Heyerdahl crossing the Pacific. And I remember
I've heard of that. I've heard of that.
Yeah. I remember looking at that book and looking at the raft and romanticizing crossing the Pacific on that raft. So that's one of my other motivations for crossing the Pacific. You know, I could have sailed around the Caribbean or whatever, but, you know, I wanted to actually see the Pacific.
Wow. Well, we got some people watching on YouTube and Facebook, so feel free to ask some questions here. We'll put them up live here. Okay, so what was the most memorable country or island that you stopped at along the way?
Without a doubt, Niue. I don't know if you ever heard of Niue. It's so. When I sailed from I left Bora Bora, French Polynesia. The next stop was 9 days, and that's to this island called Niue. It's the middle of nowhere, and I think it's a country of its own, but it's also part of, I think, the Cook Islands. Yeah, and it's amazing. It's just like I said, it's in the middle of nowhere. There's these beautiful rock pools and canyons. There's some pictures of it on my Instagram.
How do you spell it? Is it New Way?
Nuie? Niue? And yeah.
Looking it up. Okay. Niue. And why do you say that was the most picturesque or beautiful? What captured you about that?
It's all these you could swim in all these rock pools and underwater caves and see this unbelievable Niue, that's it. Niue. Yeah. And there's these beautiful rock pools, and there's the ocean life is amazing, and the clarity of the water is incredible. Yeah, that's the people I was with at the time. I had 2 crew members with me at that time. Said that you know, that was definitely the highlight of my trip.
Look at this. We're in the middle of nowhere. Wow.
It is in the middle of nowhere.
I think I would be happy that I made it there. I mean, yeah. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So from Bora to Niue, and then the next stop from there is Tonga. So I mean, I could tell you the journey.
Got a question here,
Aga.
We got a question here at the bottom.
Yeah,
It says,
so
Oh,
yeah, I could answer that question. Yeah, definitely. When I was leaving Mexico, I thought my downwind setup was the weakest. But then I also thought that, from other sailors that sailing downwind's not all that great, and you'll probably go faster if you sail off a little bit and sail at a broad reach and then just jibe back and forth. So I wanted a asymmetric because I sailed an asymmetric spinnaker in Chicago when I was there over the summer for yacht racing, and I also wanted a setup that was easy for beginners to deal with, like doing the spinnaker pole and everything. I've also talked to the Island Packet group, and everyone's like, "Oh, that spinnaker pole almost killed me." So I'm like, "All right, forget about the spinnaker pole."
I always
So,
just
but
tie it
what?
off. I just tie it, tie the sail,
Yeah,
the
you know what
main
I
sail.
did? What I did? Yeah, one, you need to have a a preventer for sure. I also had a boom brake to slow the boom down just in case the preventer lost the preventer or whatever, right? So the
mm,
other thing was on the end of my boom, I had a side opening uh, um, block, which I pushed out the boom, and I to use to pull out my head sail. So I had a 120 head sail, a 120 Genoa, and I had the sheet of that Genoa at the end of my boom in a side opening block, and that worked really well. I thought that was the best um, downwind, and I think I could sail like 145 downwind, which is enough. You know,
mm.
I don't need to sail 180 downwind, and most of the time, yeah, like I said, I think it's better to sail off the wind a little bit, and then
Yeah.
yeah, for speed. So
So,
Good question, Jesse.
yeah, that is a good question, and I've never heard of I've never heard of managing or using the like a block on the boom, to do that. That's actually brilliant. One of the things I know you made a lot of improvements to the boat, and one, and I'm hoping you can speak to is you did you consulted with Coligo and
Goligo, yeah,
Calico, and you did Dyneema rigging. Is it Dyneema or is it a different? I mean, I know that's a
no,
brand.
it's Dyneema,
It is Dyneema. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
know like a lot of. I thought that was very interesting that you did that because, a rigging failure on a long trip like that, are you really going to carry wire? And I guess why did you go that route? And what was in hindsight, would you have done it again or would you have done it differently?
Yeah, I'm really happy with the Dyneema rigging. I think it took a lot of weight off the mast, which is if you
Okay.
look at the riding moment of weight that high, it
Yeah.
really it made my boat sail really stiff.
Oh.
So I at the maximum hull speed in the most ideal conditions, which is like a beam to a broad reach with all my canvas up, I'm healing no more than 5 degrees,
Hmm.
and yeah, and I'm pretty happy. So one, yeah, taking that much weight off the mast was one of the motivations. Two, from a safety perspective, if you do lose your mast and you have 10 wires flying around with the mast, going like this,
Right.
going to be pureeing you. But with Dyneema, it's less of a danger, I think. Uh, and also you could cut it off easily. You don't have to get out the angle grinder and cut off the rigging and throw your mast overboard.
Right.
The other thing is, yes, I carried a spare Dyneema. I could replace any one of my Dyneema rigging
Mhm.
anywhere because I carry one with me. So those are those are the things. I think, I never thought of any downside to it. I haven't seen much chafing. It's still it looks just the way it is today than when I first bought it. The other thing is you can inspect Dyneema. You can see when you're frayed or something's wrong. You can't inspect, steel rigging. So yeah, I think there's the one thing I must say, Dyneema, in temperature wise, the thermodynamics of Dyneema is opposite of aluminum. So in the beginning, in Florida, when it was, the temperature differences during the day was quite high, you do have to adjust your rigging. But when you're in the tropics, it doesn't change that much from day to night. So you don't have to. I tuned my rigging along the way as I'm sailing.
Yeah.
All I do is when I'm sailing, if I'm at a tack on the on the leeward side, I would just take up the slack, and then it seems to be perfect. So every time once in a while, when I'm on one tack, I check my rigging, and if there's a little bit of slack, I just take up the slack on the windward side.
So, I'm fascinated by that. So, this is a stupid question, but
we got a question here from Jesse.
Okay.
Thanks
Yes.
for the info. Also curious if you took extra fuel in jerry cans and if you used much fuel on your longer passages. How much
Yes,
did you run the end?
the longest passage was from Chiapas, Mexico to Nuka-Hiva. And I did that in 27 and a half days. And I
Wow.
could have made it across without any extra fuel, right? But I carried 3 5-gallon jerry cans, plus I had a 30-gallon fuel bladder, which I had on deck, right in front of the main sheet. No, in front of the main sheet.
Okay.
I strapped it down.
Oh.
I strapped it down there, but as soon as I was able to, I emptied it because I didn't want that weight up there, right? So, and the other thing, the reason why I use the fuel bladder is because you're not, if it's empty, you can just roll it up and put it in, throw it down I throw mine down at the anchor locker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you do need a jerry can because some places you can't pull up to a fuel dock, right? So you have to jerry can some of these remote places, you have to jerry can your fuel in, which I only did once, and I think I could have gotten to that dock, but it was super sketchy, But I jerry can fuel in Nuka-Hiva. I jerry can fuel. I saw people backing in, dropping an anchor and backing in, and I'm like, nah, I didn't want to risk it. It was, rolly and and into a cement seawall. I was like, I'll just jerry can it in. Yeah.
So how much fuel does the 370 carry? Is it 85?
77.
Gallons? 77.
That's what it says. That's what it says on my tank. 77.
Okay. And and one of the features and benefits of the 370 is that particular model does have the anchor locker, which is kind of nice.
That's right, and that's the key thing. If you could buy a boat, being able to get to the anchor locker from the deck instead of, I can't imagine going down through to your bunk and opening up the anchor locker because you get this castling effect and it jams and you have to. And when I'm pulling up anchor, I'm constantly moving the chain back, from that that ramp, and making sure it lays down okay. Because if you're in an emergency and you need to drop that anchor, you want to make sure that chain flows out, pretty well. Yeah.
So Jesse says, good idea on the fuel bladder.
Yeah, but and my strategy was, I thought, the Everest of my sailing trip was crossing to Nuka-Hiva from Mexico, and I my strategy was to use fuel only to charge my batteries if I need to, right? So, and not, and just tough it out, if I'm in the doldrums and things like that. So, yeah, and I think I could have made it across with 370 without the need of the fuel bladder. But it was just a luxury in my mind, and the peace of mind that having that fuel bladder.
Tell us about the experience in the Panama Canal.
Yeah, that's a fantastic. So, what
Here it is, right
you
here.
wait out, right? Yeah, you wait outside the canal. It's actually very moving for me because you see the gates, and the gates are original. The gates of the locks are original, and you think about how many people died trying to build that thing. Like, was it like 26,000 people
malaria?
died?
Yeah.
Yeah. How the effort that took, and also, you're in the locks and you look up, and 15 meters above your head is a oil tanker. You're like, holy cow.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so I sailed from Florida to Isla Mujeres, and I had to. Well, one interesting, I stopped in Cuba. I had to stop in Cuba because we left Isla Mujeres, and you were going against the wind, the waves, the currents, and we were not making any headway, and we were just burning fuel. And I said, we're not going to make it to the Cayman Islands, and we're just going to bob around in the ocean, or we could go into Cuba and look for fuel. So we went into Cuba in the middle of the night.
Without not a planned stop?
Not a planned stop. We went into Cuba.
There's all this paperwork you're supposed to do. Oh, there's like tons of paperwork.
Well, so if you're out of fuel, I mean,
Yeah, right? Yeah. So we just said, all right, we'll just roll the dice. We'll go in it. So we went into Cuba, and we dropped anchor, and there was this dock. And there was one military vessel there, and I dropped the anchor like 100 meters from that dock, and I tried to hail anybody. I said, hey, we're checking into the country, whatever, doing the check-in thing, and nobody responded to me. And then in the morning, I wake up and I see a fuel truck going down the dock, the cement dock, and I said, I want that fuel. So I went, docked the boat. I docked the boat opposite of that military vessel, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be rolling cigars in jail somewhere, and the
Castro Hotel, that's what they call it.
Yeah, the Castro Hotel. So, I took down my American flag. I have an Australian passport, hid my U.S. passport, and my crew was Norwegian. So we were like, hola, there's, no Americans here. And we asked if we could have some fuel, and they were like, sure. They fueled us up, let us go, send us on our way, no problem, no check-in, no paperwork, no nothing. And that saved our ass. So, prompts to Cuba. I don't think we would have the U.S. would have treated the Cuban boat just as well as they did me. So thank you, Cuba.
I do have a question. So
yeah.
I'm sure whatever you paid them went right into their pockets.
Grease the palm.
What did you pay them with? Not U.S. dollars.
No, so they took my credit card.
Good question.
They took credit card. They took my credit card.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh
yeah.
Well, that's good. All right. I just wondered. Okay.
Yeah.
So they didn't board you. They didn't do you have any fruits and vegetables? Where are you going?
Nope. You couldn't. You had to give them liquor or beer or anything.
Nope.
Or...
There was no extortion, no greasing the palms, no nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Can I ask you? Did you carry firearms? Just as for my personal... No. Okay.
No, but I did carry the most powerful flashlight in the world. So it was, and it's and that was like my
so you can blind them?
That's my theoretical weapon. It's called a LEP flashlight. it could shoot a beam of light 2.6 kilometers away.
Oh,
So
Wow.
it's what is it called? It's the featherless arrow. Yeah.
oh, oh.
So
Okay.
yeah, if you shot this flashlight at someone's face, they're done. You
Yeah.
know.
Did you
So-
Okay,
encounter?
I got a question. I got a question. Any unexpected moments or surprises, good or bad, that shaped your experience during the voyage? Anything that stands out?
I I never had a bad experience. I mean, it took me 4 days to check into Nicaragua. So, but it's only because I think
Is that normal?
and I don't know, but I think it is. I think it is normal because I had an Argentine friend with me that spoke Spanish, even though they had even my Argentine friend had difficulty speaking to the Nicaraguans.
Dialect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it took us. Without him, I don't know how I could have done it because it's like a scavenger hunt of stamps, government stamps, and and they weren't happy with me because I was coming in there on 48 knots of wind into that bay, Playa de something, I forgot. It's the first one after Costa Rica. It was 48 knots of wind. I'm like, I'm going to grab a mooring ball and then, hail the port captain and then, do this thing. So as I was coming in and about to grab the mooring ball, they were hailing me in Spanish over the radio, and they were like, "Hey, and my friend, my Spanish friend, was saying, "Hey, I think they want to talk to you," and they're like, sailboat in Spanish, state your intention, so they weren't happy, and the next thing you know, I see the Capitan on a boat, standing in front of the bow of the boat, with his all the military, with
like
him.
a movie.
And
That's got right
it
out
was
of
like-
a movie.
it was like George Washington crossing the Potomac, and they were like, and then they came up and they banged my boat. And they're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, hey, I'm about to check, I'm checking into the country. And they're like, you're supposed to hail. So anyways, but that was like the worst of, it wasn't even that bad. Yeah. So
Mike, do you know Mike Penley? He's
I
a
sure
friend of yours?
do.
Yeah,
Mike
he's
Penley, I attribute a lot of my success to Mike Penley. He helped me so much in Punta Gorda. Mike,
in Punta Gorda. Okay.
Yeah. So Mike's boat was behind me, and he was like, "You've seen me," and it's funny because my friend came to visit me, and she turned to Mike. She said, "Hey, you think he's gonna make it?" And Mike said, "No way."
He didn't think you. He didn't think you'd make it.
Mike, I learned so much from Mike, and he helped me so much on my boat. Like he built the companionway door for me. The cockpit table. He helped me, the wiring from my solar panels. That's one of the hardest things you can do on a boat is running wires through a boat. So Mike helped me a lot, and he's such a great guy. Thanks, Mike.
Is Mike a Island Packet owner?
No, at that time he had a trawler. He had a trawler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A condo, like a condo on the water. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay too. Condos are good. Trawlers.
Well, and a lot of people and a lot of sailors end up going with trawlers, don't they, Terry?
They do eventually. Like I'm sure there's a trawler in my future. I'm probably not going to give up sailboats, but yes.
Yeah. I said, after I'm done crossing the Pacific, I want to be a floater, not a sailor.
Oh, you don't want to go across big water?
I don't know. Maybe right now I was a little, the last.
What are you doing now with the boat?
Yeah, right now I put the boat up for sale. I'm
so sad to hear that.
Well, my kids are here in Australia, so I'm not going to wander farther. I don't have any plans to go anywhere. So I'm thinking of selling it and doing some land yachting.
Yeah.
So, and live a land life for a little bit. I'm not sure. I don't know. See what tomorrow brings.
Can't you just
Yeah.
do a little coastal sailing around Australia?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's a possibility. But I need to start working again. So
And there's
I
a
need
lot
to.
around there. There's,
Oh
all those
yeah, there's
islands and
great
everything.
for sure. The Whitsunday Islands and sailing inside the Barrier Reef is also a lot nicer. Because it's not as rough as the open ocean.
How much solar do you have? Jesse wants to know.
Yeah, so I have 1,200 watts of solar. 1,200 watts. It's a LG bifacial, and that's a great solar panel. The bifacials, and
That's a lot. That's a
they're
good
rate.
amount.
Yeah, so it's rated at around 400 watts per solar panel, but I've seen as high as 460 per on a panel. And I get about 5 to 7 kilowatts of power from my solar panel. But unfortunately, one of the downsides of Island Packet is the insulation of the fridge is just horrendous. And also those Adelbaber, which I changed to Cool Blue, is it's a power hungry fridge system. So most of my electricity was eaten up by fridge, and I have a Domatic CFX 55 liter. So I use that and my boat fridge. So I had a lot of fridge space, which is great. I mean, one of the biggest morale booster for doing ocean crossing is food. You got to have good food. Yeah. So that, and in retrospect, that and the autopilot takes up a lot of juice. And one of the
Right.
one things that I learned on my trip was to have a separate battery bank for your navigation and autopilot. Because I've had my house bank go dark and your autopilot shuts off and the boat goes, it's like disheartening in the middle of the night. So I have I have 3 battery banks: the starter, the house bank, and the navigation system. And I DC to DC charge to my autopilot battery bank. So
that's a good idea. Terry, have you ever heard of that?
No, but I no, I think that's brilliant, though. I mean,
yeah, I do
that
too.
does make a lot of sense because you're right. I mean, refrigeration. So you have, is the Cool Blue a keel cooled refrigeration system?
No, mine's air cooled.
Air cooled,
but,
yeah.
My battery, and you can see the voltage on my chart plotter, has never left 13.8, which is for a lithium battery that's fully charged. It's always, I crossed the Pacific with that battery. It's a Dakota lithium battery for my navigation and my autopilot. That was 13.8 solid across the Pacific. And that was and I think that's one of the things that, I've heard a lot of people burning out their hydraulic rudder ram. And I think it's because if your voltage drops a lot, then you have to push a lot more amps. So they burn, which is not good. So I think for the navigation system and all that electronics, having a constant voltage keeps it really healthy. I never had a problem in my navigation.
Well, I think that's brilliant. I actually have had, I've lost my electronics. I've had a brownout. We ended up, I'm sure it was 1,000% my fault, but I never thought of isolating, just the electronics on their own battery. So you have so your lithium batteries, are they 8Ds or are they group 31s or?
Well, so I have a lithium starter battery. It's made by Braille, which is, I think, a phenomenal battery. It's been solid. And the good thing about it, it's got 2,000 cold cranking amps. It never self-discharged. I could leave it, for a year, come back, and it's still 13.2 volts.
Wow.
I have a big battery house bank, It's called Made by Big Battery. The reason I went with that is that I like the fact that it has an on and off switch on the battery. You can turn it off, and
Okay.
it's got the battery. It's got a built-in fuse, and it
And
has a
EMS.
built-in and a built-in fire extinguisher. So so being able to turn off when you have that much power, being able to turn off the battery and be able to work on your wiring and stuff is a huge advantage. I don't know why every battery maker doesn't have a on and off switch on their battery, because
Mine do. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I've got lithium batteries. Lithionics. That's what I have.
Lithionics. That's a great brand. Yeah.
So what was the name? It was called Big Battery. That's the your house.
It's Big Battery. Yeah.
And it's not. And it's
Big Battery.
Not.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I've not heard of that. All right.
Yeah.
So your with the batteries. I was going to ask a question. Oh, I'm sure you didn't use your bow thruster in the middle of the ocean, but well, because I know like a lot of coastal cruisers who are doing, maybe let's say the intercoastal or maybe the loop, they. I didn't think that I was not aware that there was a lithium battery that had enough cold cranking amps to either start an engine or to, a lot of. I know some island packets out there that have lithium batteries. They're not able to maintain the use of the bow thruster because it's a big motor with the lithium. So anyway, I just wondered.
Yeah, I think and if I was going to put a bow thruster, and
you don't have that's right. Yours didn't have a bow thruster.
I don't. It has the fairing for it, but it's not installed, and it's got the wires run. But the other thing is, since the anchor and the bow thruster is so forward of the boat away from the house bank, I would put another battery near there, because that cable run is just too big.
That would be 4 banks.
That would be 4. I'm all for isolating, because you're those things are pushing a lot of amps. The bow thruster and the anchor is probably 1,200 watts, something like that. So 100 amps. You want 100 amps of going across a wire across your boat. Isn't that what the problem Shea had was with their anchor? So if you have it close, the battery close to where it's going to be used,
it's better.
You can have, it's much better, and just DC to DC charge there. And I never had a problem with my anchor windlass. I had 275 feet of chain, and I pulled it up. I pulled it up like 3 times during, like to re-anchor and things at one sitting. So,
So you said that you have a separate battery bank for your electronics. So tell me about your navigation. Like, obviously you took paper charts too, I'm sure.
Nah.
You didn't?
I don't understand. No paper charts.
Okay.
I threw it. The first thing I did when I got on the boat is throw out the paper charts. Everyone says about, I don't see how the paper charts could be more detailed than the electronic charts.
Yeah.
Like, electronic charts are updated all the time. And also with my depth sounder, I upload the depths to Navionics, right?
Oh, crowdsource. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. People say, you got to have paper charts.
Paper charts are there in case everything goes out, but you have 3 battery banks. So I don't.
I know my mom is listening.
Watts of,
yes.
Yeah. I know my mom is listening. And when I was a little kid, she said, you'll not always have a calculator on, near you, when I was studying, my math. I'm like, there are like 15 calculators around me right now. I've never been without a calculator. So, and the same thing with, I had all kinds of devices with GPS. I have my iPad, my iPhone, so many. My AIS has GPS. My Zeus 3 has GPS. There's like, and all my crew that ever stepped on my boat had you know, GPS every, so like, you know, always gonna have a GPS. So anyways, yeah,
What did you do for weather routing? Did you consult a weather router, or
Did you have satellite
no,
weather?
I, yeah, I had satellite weather. I mean, I had Starlink on board, and I also,
Okay.
you know, so I had Predict Wind, I had the whatever package, and I would say, you know, and I looked at all the different, I always looked at all the different models and things like that, and I would say it's 60% accurate, you know.
yeah.
60%.
It's not, I was surprised how, maybe when you get uh, in the Americas, but in remote places,
Yeah.
I think it was like 60% accurate. Um, and also, if you're doing long passages, after the first
It
3 days,
changes.
you know,
Or 6
it's
hours.
what, yeah, after 3 days, what are you gonna do? You know, you're like, you're on a 27-day passage, you
You're
know,
committed. Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna sail the
Yeah.
weather. I did look
Did
at
you
what
get
I think
did
was
you get a lot any bad weather?
the
Anything
last two
scary?
days coming into Australia was the worst 2 days of my 3 years sailing. Um,
Wow.
it was really,
Thr
really bad. And the
3
problem
years.
was, the
Wow.
yeah, so coming in, I was trying to come into the Southport Seaway, and they have a volunteer rescue organization. I was calling them. I say, hey, what does the Seaway look like to get in? They said, don't even try it, you know,
Wow.
because the waves were breaking across the Seaway. So I had to go up around this island and hide behind this island, and you know, and I had to stay. They dug a channel to there, and I had to stay in the channel, and I could see the wave breaking right before the channel as you're coming in. It was, I could have easily gotten rolled. You know, if you wandered off the channel, you could have easily gotten rolled. So yeah,
And what was that island that you hid behind?
Moreton Island, Moreton Island near the Gold Coast. Yeah, so I went up around, instead of going into the Gold Coast to Southport Marina, I went up around Moreton Island, and yeah, so Australia keeps an eye on it. It's funny because I called AMR, and then I called the Coast Guard. I said, I'm coming in around Moreton Island. I'm going to arrive there around 6 p.m. Can I drop? I'm requesting permission to drop anchor, and then because I didn't want to go through the river, the waterways to Brisbane in the middle of the night. I've never been there before. Blah blah blah. I said, can I do it during the daytime? They said okay, but in the when I got there, as soon as my anchor touched the sand, they called me up and said, "What are you doing? Do not stop. You have to continue on." I'm like, oh no. After that horrendous 2-day passage, you know, like, you know, 20-foot seas and getting tossed around out there, and it was hitting me from the side. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? I have to go through all the different channels there all the way through to Brisbane. But I did it, and that was fine. But yeah.
That is amazing. So did you maintain the same kinds of watch schedules, like the same, like what was your watch schedule?
Well, let me ask you, is this where you were talking about coming in right here, or?
No. I was gonna come in further down, but that's where I went around that island. There's a gold Strawbrook
Right here?
Island. Yeah, further down.
Is this
No,
it?
no, yeah, Gold Coast. Yeah, over there where, yeah, I think that's it.
Right here.
No, I wasn't gonna go through there. Anyways, it's Gold Coast, Southport Marina. It's yeah,
right
Gold
here.
Coast. See, yeah, I was gonna come in there, and
Right
then
there.
yeah, through there. Yeah, I was gonna come in there, and the waves were breaking across that.
Okay.
And I was advised not to try it, you know.
So close yet so far.
I was, and I had to add another. I had to go up and around, but yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. But in my mind, sailing around the coastline, doing coastal sailing is much more difficult than ocean passage. Ocean passage is just a mental exercise, it's just a mental challenge. But I'm more worried about hitting land, out in the middle of the ocean, just
Yeah.
you keep the boat floating, you're fine,
Yeah, there's
and
more
fire, those
challenges to navigating and everything, and knowing you
navigating,
don't want to
yeah,
run aground, or when you're coming into a marina, you don't want to hit the dock.
right, right, yeah.
What was the most like? Do you feel that you could have done it without AIS?
No, no, you really the AIS is definitely a, a good thing to have, because all the big ships out there can see you and you can see them. You
Right.
see your collision thing. But crossing the Pacific, when I left Mexico, I did not see one boat until I got close to Nukahiva.
Wow.
And I remember you asking about watches.
Yeah.
If you're sailing in the middle of the Pacific at night, if you're gonna hit a container, you say a container floating or whatever, you're not gonna be able to react before it hits you. You're never gonna see anything in the water,
Right.
like and and
You just
also
can't think about it.
no man, you see on your AIS, there's nobody around. I didn't even track anybody on my AIS, and once I got like 200 nautical miles away from Mexico. And then you look, even in Florida, you look out in the ocean, you don't see any boats way out
Yeah, in
there.
the Gulf of Mexico, there's rarely see other boats when you're making a crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we did we kept a strict watch schedule from Florida to Panama, and then I I I did I didn't do a lot of overnight because I had a very inexperienced crew. I anchored overnight all the way up to Mexico, and then when I crossed with one person, um, and we just slept through the night. It's like we might as well have a good rest if we hit anything. Who wants to be tired when but the only thing
well, let me just say, Mike is asking this question. He may not have heard you talking about not being able to get into Brisbane. Yeah, he was almost done after 3 years of sailing, and he couldn't. I don't know how much time it took. How long did it take you? You had to go.
It was another extra day and a half to go up around over the island. Island. Yeah, but I didn't want to. One thing for sure, I didn't want to stay out there. Like I guess you could have heaved two. You could have heaved two out there. No way, man. It's like when there's
it was rough.
20-foot seas breaking.
No, I'm coming in.
Get
out of the way.
Yeah, I was
coming
thinking,
in hot.
I was like, man, I'm just gonna run this thing into the ground and the beach and the Gold Coast. I'm like, I'm done, man. Just take this thing away, and just walk up to the bar with a margarita.
Did the crew stay the whole time with you, or I know you met your wife, or
yeah, so I married one of my crew.
Yeah,
so I started.
That's amazing.
And the guys will love this. So I started from Florida with 3 girls from Norway, and they were great. And 2 of them never really sailed. Only Helga sailed, and so that was cool. So we sailed from Florida to Isla Mujeres to Cuba to Cayman Islands to Panama together, and we crossed the Panama Canal together. And then, unfortunately, when I was in Panama, my father got really ill, eventually died. I had to put the whole thing on pause. So they got on another boat, and they actually got on this YouTube boat called Ripple Effect. And they got on that boat, but Helga stayed on and became the captain of Ripple Effect. and I think now they're in South Africa or Madagascar. Yeah. So, and then when out from Panama to Costa Rica, I had two French girls with me, and then from
Lots of girls.
Team.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think so, and then from Costa Rica. In Costa Rica, from the south to the north of Costa Rica, I had this Argentine girl, and then an Argentine male friend came with me from Costa Rica
Yeah.
to Mexico, and then I had this Canadian trauma room surgeon with me, going
It's
from
good to have.
yeah.
Where did you meet these
was-
people?
I met them on Hitchhiker Forum on Facebook, and yeah, and then Alicia, my wife, she flew into Tahiti, and we sailed from Tahiti to Australia together. And it's funny, I was telling her, I said, don't worry, by the time we get to Australia, we'll be married. It's like, anyways, yeah. So that was cool. Yeah.
And so, how long did you know her, Alicia?
I met
I
her
do
in
have a
March.
picture of her.
Yeah, I met her
This
in March.
There she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wait,
She
not sharing
joined yeah. She joined an elite group of Mrs. Sennas out there. There's only been 3 in the world, So
There you go. Well, that's
And
so
awesome.
yeah,
Is she from? Where's she from?
South Africa. She's from South
Oh,
Africa.
okay. And now
Yeah.
she lives in Australia.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Wow.
And you got
yeah,
married on the boat.
So yeah, that's the thing. If you're having too much fun, people kind of gravitate to that. So
So what was the most amount of crew you had on board? Just a total of 4, including you, or?
yeah, that's the most. And I learned early on that the less, the better, for big
Yeah.
ocean crossing.
Because
There's less dynamics. Like if you have 4 people, you have 16 ways you can have a conflict, including if you had a conflict with yourself.
Right.
good point.
Right? You got 4 times 4 ways of a conflict. So it's better, with 2 people, man, you got only this other person, and you got to get along with, or else, you're on your own, whatever. So I think 2 people is the best, for big ocean crossing. If you're just going to float around the coast and have margaritas, yeah, you could have 4 people, 6 people. Yeah.
Not me. It's
So
me
you
and one other person usually, or by myself.
Yeah, well, you do a lot of single handing, Tinsley.
I prefer it. Well, me and Scott, but I did a lot on my own.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should try that.
You should, because once you get away
Yeah.
from the dock, I mean, you have somebody help you leave the dock, on the dock,
Right.
and it's
Right.
then you get out there by yourself. You could do everything yourself. Well, you and your wife, you
Ye-
got a wife now, so
Yeah, so I think the happiest sailors I've met along the way were solo sailors.
right.
Really? Wow.
Really, yeah. And there's a island packet guy with a 27-foot, really small boat, sailing leapfrog.
I'm looking that up right now. Okay.
Yeah, he was
Where
a
is
cool
he?
guy. I think now
Punta
he's
Gorda?
on the he's on the Caribbean side now. No, I met him in Chiapas, and he sailed from San Diego. No, or even further north. He sailed from the U.S. I met him in Chiapas, and he did it on his 27-foot.
Oh,
Yeah.
IP-27.
Yeah, we need to
I
interview
used to have one of those. I had one for
Oh,
5
you
years.
should. He's an interesting guy. He's a really interesting guy. I forgot his name, but it's Sailing Leapfrog.
Rick.
This
His
is,
name is Rick. He's been sailing his 27-foot sailboat leapfrog along the Pacific coast of Central America, and he transited the Panama Canal.
He
So
transited already?
yeah, it says
Oh,
I recently transited the Panama Canal, and I am at a slip and shelter bay outside Cologne, Panama. I'm glad you
Oh, I
found
would
me.
love to talk to him.
Yeah, that would
yeah.
be awesome.
Terry,
Well,
look how clean this boat is. Look at his boat.
yeah, I
Yeah,
sold
that
him
was
that boat.
the first day. That doesn't look
Perfection.
like that now.
Well,
Wow.
It's for sale. It's for sale, everyone.
I'm
Okay,
so
so
disappointed.
how you have to like how um can you put on like the IPYOA website, the link to it for sale?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would
Yeah,
be
send
uh,
send it. Is it on there now or no?
no, I don't
No,
think
I
so.
haven't. I was waiting for this
Yeah. This is the big
podcast.
launch, yes. Well, and
The big
Yeah.
launch.
yeah, and it's interesting. Well, Ega called me a couple weeks ago and said he was selling the boat, and I said no.
That's so sad.
Well, maybe there's another boat in the future. You never know.
Well,
Yeah.
after you've been through, it's just like Kirsten when she said she may be selling her boat after going around the world in 233 days, and
Yeah.
and she's having a hard time selling it. I mean, it's like it becomes your buddy, your friend.
Well, your
Oh, is she trying to
identity.
sell it? Because Helga's looking for a boat right now to do the GGR.
Oh well, this one won, so
See,
Yeah.
Tinsley, I told you, you should sell boats. But anyway,
Yeah.
but so are you? Did you ever feel like you needed a bigger boat or a different boat? Did you? I mean,
yeah,
island packets are very safe.
good question.
Yes. It was this boat was definitely solid. And believe it or not, and even though like these ports, how beefy these ports are, I was hit from the side once and it pushed the port light open. And if you look how beefy that is, that's a beefy port light.
What,
I don't know
it
how
pushed
those
it
other boats.
open?
It pushed it, and water came in, and it's and you see it way it's locked down. I was hit from the side really hard.
Like
So
rogue wave
a
coming
wave,
in?
yeah, yes, a
Wow.
wave. And I
Oh
heard
my
it. It was like
God.
bam. It's like an elephant ran into my boat, the side of the boat, and it threw us across the boat. And so, I don't know how these other boats that have those just like a plexiglass porthole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how they
Stainless
survive.
steel. Do you think maybe it just
Yeah.
wasn't screwed down very well?
I mean, I thought it was screwed down pretty well, but I kind of felt the whole boat flex. It was like,
Wow.
holy shit.
And this was
Yeah,
right
I'm
off
like,
the coast of Australia at the end of your trip?
yes, this was
Thank
like the
God it
last
wasn't like that
few days.
throughout the trip,
Yeah, no, I never took water over the cockpit the whole time.
Wow.
And the water did go over the cockpit that one time, like the last day to Australia. Yeah, definitely. The water came. That's the first time water, came into the boat through just the porthole and also the cowling. What do they call that thing?
Oh, the Doré vents.
The Dore. Yeah. Should that be
Oh,
facing
boy.
the other way when you're sailing? I don't know.
Well, it really is up to you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
more ventilation, not really,
Right.
anything else.
Because it
But
depends on where the water's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could turn it away.
Yeah.
What would you if you had to share some information with new sailors that are thinking of don't have to be new sailors, someone to make the same crossing? What would you say to someone who's thinking about making that trip?
I would prioritize a mechanical wind vane. The way my boat was set up. The way my boat was set up, it was kind of hard to do because I have my dinghy davits. I got my solar back there and the dinghy davits. I don't know if I could have put the wind vane on the side. I would have prioritized that. Other than that, you just have to look in your soul and see how much pain you can endure.
You got to really want to do it, right?
Yeah, there are definitely times when, like, yeah, my morale was low and things like that. But then you get somewhere like Niue and like you're revitalized. You're just like, holy moly,
Look at this
and that's
place.
the way, I guess. Yeah, everything in life is like that. You have to, it's always peaks. The best is the peaks and valleys, because you can only see how tall the mountain is by being in the valley, right? So, yeah, I think,
Where's the waterfall that I just showed your video? Where was
that's
that?
that's in Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
I forgot
That's not
where. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful scenery. Yeah, I mean, also, what's going to drive you to do it. For me, now having done what I've done, I feel confident that I could with the right boat, I could sail anywhere in the world. It's really not that hard. It's really, you press the gauge on the autopilot and try to stay away. Most of the,
well,
99%
I think the
of the
hardest
time.
part, because I'm not a mechanic, the hardest part would be to fix something that was over my head, when you're out there. And I mean, I can rig things, but that's the thing I would be worried about, 27 days at sea. But it sounded like you handled it.
I mean, if I would have lost my engine at any time, that would have been a real.
Well, you still
bummer.
have your sails.
Not if you're in lee shore, you're getting pushed. You just, if you're going through a pass in an atoll and you lose your engine, or you drag your anchor and you have to
Well, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, I'll take this time to make an announcement that if you know this name, and I don't even know how to pronounce it, Tanya Aebi, Aebi.
Tanya Aebi. Are you interviewing her?
Yes.
That's awesome.
I know. I feel like I've been talking to a celebrity over email. She's coming on December 11th. Aga, if you don't know her, she was the youngest solo circumnavigator.
Yep, she was 16
before GPS, and her engine went out, and so she went across the Pacific with no engine.
Wow.
And I read her book, and I've just been fascinated with that story. Imagine not being able to communicate at all, and having no GPS, no chart plotter, none of that technology. And what basically when she was 18, she lived in New York, and I guess she was doing a lot of partying or something. And her dad said, well, you're either going to go to college or you're going to sail around the world. So guess what she chose? She's coming on December 11th. It'll be fascinating.
I have to watch that. Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I have to hand it to people who do solo around the world nonstop, because I don't know how you could do it.
Well, these people on your boat that had no sailing experience, I mean, did they start complaining, seasick, or that would be a worry of mine. If everybody was unhappy, then it would kind of ruin everything.
The funny thing is, because I've met a lot of other captains along the way, the worst crew is someone who thinks they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sure.
The worst, telling you how to sail. Like, actually, that'd be the worst crews. Like someone who's telling you how to sail your boat.
You got a point there. If you got three people trying to tell you and not listening to you and second guessing you.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that your boom was bent.
No, yeah, it had a kink on it, and they welded 4 aluminum bars, like tubes, on both sides of the area where it bent. So that area where it bent is actually stronger than the original.
Does this happen on the end of your trip? Is this as a result?
No, this happened coming from Nuka Hiva to Tahiti. So, we didn't actually see it get kinked. It wasn't bent. It was kinked a little. It was, bent, kinked, whatever. So it bent at the fulcrum of the main sheet, where the main sheet attaches to the boom, right? And we were getting hit from the side with waves, right? So it's flipping the boat back and forth, and we were adjusting the sails or whatever, and the guy that was on the main sheet, it got away from both sides of the main sheet, and then it just went bam, bam, bam.
Okay.
So, and that's where I think it got kinked, that because it was right at the attachment point of the main sheet. So when I got to Tahiti, I took the boom to a welder. He straightened it, and he put 4 tubes on both sides, and then he welded the plate, aluminum plate over it. So that area is stronger than
it was before.
Oh, for sure.
Can you tell?
Wow.
I mean, I can't test it to tell, but it made.
I mean, can you, when you look at it, can you tell?
Can you tell it's good welded?
Yeah.
Yeah, that it was fixed. Yeah, for sure. Like a new extrusion, I heard is $1,500 US.
Yeah.
If you want to replace the extrusion.
Okay.
Yeah. So and it made it all the way from Tahiti to Australia. So
how much
I feel confident.
How much is the boat?
She was breaking up.
Yeah, you're freezing up, Tinsley.
How much?
Did it cost to fix?
No, how much is it to buy the boat? You've got it for sale.
Yeah, it's for sale. I'll sell it. The cheapest island packet, $370 in the market. What is it? Whatever it is, I'll match that price.
Hold on, stand by.
I think the cheapest is like $199.
We're gonna say the most reasonably priced.
I think it's like $199 is the lowest price island packet.
So it's been imported into Australia, right?
And it's been tested, so I just hand over the keys and you go across the Indian Ocean.
Oh, that sounds easy.
Yeah. I thought the average price
that sounds easy.
Is what, $230 the average price?
So I have it. So there's $195.
Yeah, that's like for $195.
There you go.
Yeah.
With lithium batteries and water maker and solar and
the head sail is Hydronet radials. So my Genoa, my 120 Genoa, that's a hefty sail.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know when you bought the boat, as I recall, you got a good deal. I've sold a lot of boats, but I know you poured your heart and soul into the boat, like as Tinsley has, as I have. Like it's like a child. You need braces.
Yeah.
Whatever they cost, that's what it costs. We need a new heat exchanger. All right, it is what it is. So,
I just put in a new autopilot with remote control.
Oh, wow.
So I'll be able to sit up front and just.
well
yeah, I was. Originally, I put the autopilot head down below, I never adjusted the autopilot, down below. And everyone's like, yeah, that's crazy. You can't you're in the middle of the Pacific, you can steer from anywhere. But I have it up on I have a Triton. I have a Triton and that autopilot thing, and it's Zeus 3, and it's.
I'll be able to sit up on the bow and just make adjustments.
Yeah. For solo sailing, probably with you're anchoring and things like that, for sure that would be helpful.
Oh, sure. I wasn't even thinking of that. I was thinking about when crossing the Gulf, you can just go sit, wherever it's comfortable and still be able to make adjustments.
Right.
So if somebody wants to buy the boat, they can find you at SV KaiBo.
Yes.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
And on Facebook, or did you find?
Yeah, I'm Aga. My name Aga Sena. If you Google Aga Sena, I'm like all over.
Right.
Or my email is aga@sena.com. So I'm the easiest person to find.
Aga,
my email at Cena.com.
Okay.
So you're selling the boat and you've moved on land and now you're going to get a job. I mean, I feel like you're going to want to go back out and go sailing again.
Eventually. I'm just taking a break.
Oh, you didn't say you were getting a job. Oh no.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Hey, I bought this.
Well,
Isn't it nice? I bought this in Tahiti.
Ooh,
Oh,
look
cool.
at that.
Bora Bora.
Wow.
I thought I'd wear it for the show.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you sharing. This is probably like, I'm sure, volumes more
Thank
to the
you.
story. Are you a writer? Are you going to write a book or?
No, but if anyone wants to contact me and ask me any questions or advice, or I'm
Okay.
happy to chit chat sailing stuff. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and Terry, thank you so much. I knew you when I met you. You were such a great broker. I remember she had her arm in a sling and she's trying to get her ladder out of her car. I'm going, let me get that for you. And they're like, no, I can get it. And yeah, she's been a great was a great broker for me.
Well, I was fascinated by your story. You're like, I'm gonna buy a boat and sail it to Australia, and I'm thinking, okay, like
A lot of people say that. A lot of people say that.
And I remember in the sea trial, I'll never forget this. You looked at me and you said, I could see you doing this.
Oh.
I was like,
Okay.
all right, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you have no idea how many people buy boats, myself included, and talk a big talk, but when it comes down to like actually doing something, like you're the 1%. I mean, really, that is, kudos to you, because it takes a lot to do what you did. And it's humbling. And whenever I step on a boat that has been someplace, it just has such good karma. So that's the thing about your boat. It's gone somewhere. Yeah. So.
And a lot of people just can't make it happen. Like they don't have the time or the resources, and it's a dream, but they just can't make it happen. You made it happen.
Yeah. I mean,
thank you. And the one thing I must say, you do a lot of things in life, like work and things like that, but nothing tests you to be brave, and to push out in Mexico, and cross that 7,000 nautical mile thing,
wow.
It kind of makes you want to be brave.
You look back and go, is this a good idea?
I was like,
you had me going into Cuba.
And all I was thinking, you know what? At least I didn't die in a nursing home and soiled nappies. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh well, whatever happens now.
I am so proud of you. I mean, it's like really, there are a lot of people who tell me that what their story is, and it's just
thanks, Mike.
Smartest guy you ever met. That's a high compliment right there. Coming from another smart guy.
We went to lunch and you were telling me about bifacial panels, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he thinks out of the box. You really do. I mean, like the whole thing about having more than 2 battery banks for different things. Yeah. That's so smart.
For the electronics, I think that's brilliant. Well, I watched one of the YouTube channels, and they have a fully electric boat, and guess what happened? They had a runaway something battery, and they had one like extra battery. It's like it was just their emergency battery for their personal electronics. They ended up using that, so to start their engine later on. So I think isolating is not a bad thing. I think that's
we should probably do another video about just how to set up for long passages with different out of the box things that you did. That would be a good video just to do that.
That would be great. Well,
okay.
Or
thanks.
Yeah, get a panel together. I like to talk to other people, and see how
maybe you get Mike on there.
Panel.
Mike, and even forgive me. Have you interviewed Jeffrey Cardenas?
No, I don't know that
Jeffrey,
name.
I feel like I've just been blessed to have encountered people who have. Jeffrey sailed his Island Packet 460 around the world during COVID, or partially during COVID. And Jeffrey is a lot like you, Aga. He had this dream, and I met him, I think, like within a day after he arrived in Fort Pierce after his circumnavigation. And I remember him saying, he said, I don't even have a car. I don't know what I'm going to do next. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
One moment at a time.
Yeah. I mean, it was just kind of cool. That would be kind of, really interesting.
Will you text me? Will you if you want to come on like this, with him, that would be great.
Yeah.
Or
he's on his way back to the US. Absolutely. Yeah. That would be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the panel idea. Get a bunch of technical people on here and just talk tech stuff.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'll hit you up. I'll hold you to it. All right, guys.
Well, you staying up late, because what time is it where you are in Australia? Yeah.
I think it's 10
in the morning.
It's early.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm way off. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tinsley. This was awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you so
you,
much,
Terry.
guys.
Nice seeing you again. And
All right.
I've watched Tinsley. I watched your YouTube channels. It's nice to finally see you and meet you in person.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This is how we end it. We say salty abandon out.
Thank you, guys. Bye.